My name is Sandra Elliott. I was 41 years old when my sister tried to reclaim the boy she handed me 19 years earlier. She got pregnant at 17. My parents panicked. They said a child would destroy the family's reputation, derail Nicole's future, ruin absolutely everything. So they turned to me. I was 23, unmarried, had never held an infant in my life. I took him anyway, raised him on my own, worked 2 jobs through his first 3 years, wrapped his birthday presents in brown paper bags, attended every school conference without another adult beside me. My sister relocated to Seattle, finished university, earned her MBA, married twice, and never once picked up the phone to ask how her child was doing. Then he walked across that graduation stage, and my sister appeared in that auditorium carrying a decorated cake. Congratulations from your real mom. What unfolded at that ceremony made my mother weep, made my sister's fiancé walk out, and made 200 complete strangers rise to their feet for a woman they had never met. Before we go further, if you are someone who connects with stories about family and the defining moments that shape us, take a moment to like and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me where you are listening from and what time it is there. Let me take you back 19 years to the night my mother called at 2 in the morning. I grew up in Clover Ridge, Indiana. Population 9,000. The kind of town where your mailman already knows your business before you do, and the pharmacist asks about your uncle's knee surgery. My sister Nicole is 7 years younger than me. She was the youngest child, the beautiful one, the one who walked into a room and made the air feel different just by arriving. I was the other one. The one who set the dinner table, scrubbed the pots, drove Nicole to ballet class every Monday and Wednesday because my mother said it would be good experience for when I had children of my own someday. I loved my sister. I want to be clear about that. I loved her the way older sisters do, with frustration and tenderness twisted so tightly together, you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. Our mother, Carol, had a simple worldview. Nicole was delicate. Nicole needed protecting. Nicole was the one everyone worried about. And I was the one who handled things, the dependable one, the one nobody checked on because I would always figure it out. Our father, Raymond, agreed with whatever Carol said. He was not a mean man. He was an invisible one, present at the dinner table and absent from every conversation that actually mattered. I was 23 the spring that changed everything. I had just completed my undergraduate degree in education at Indiana University. I had been accepted into a graduate program with a full scholarship. I had a plan, a timeline, a studio apartment with a window that faced a brick wall, which I found beautiful because it was entirely mine. Nicole was 17, a junior in high school. She had a boyfriend named Connor who drove a pickup truck and worked at the bowling alley. Then one night in February, our landline rang at 2 in the morning. It was my mother. I drove the 35 minutes home through darkness. Carol was at the kitchen table with a cup of chamomile tea she was not drinking. Raymond stood by the stove with his arms folded, staring at the floor tiles. Nicole was upstairs. I could hear her sobbing through the ceiling. Carol did not look up when I sat down. She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. An ultrasound printout. For months along. For months. Nicole had known for 4 months and told no one. Carol's first words were not about Nicole, not about the baby, not about Connor, who had already stopped returning Nicole's messages. Her first words were, "The neighbors cannot find out." I remember the kitchen clock ticking. 14 minutes past 2. The tea growing cold. Raymond clearing his throat and saying absolutely nothing. Carol laid out the options the way a general delivers a battle plan. Adoption, but the process required documentation, and documentation meant exposure. Keeping it, but Nicole was 17 and Carol would not have a teenage mother under her roof. "It would undo everything we have worked for," she said, as though she had built something more substantial than a front porch and a neighborhood reputation. Then she walked to the hallway closet and returned holding a small green blanket folded into a square. Baby blanket, cotton, worn soft at the edges. "This was yours," she said, setting it in front of me. "When you were born." I held it. Thin, light, smelling of cedar and thyme. Carol sat back down and looked at me directly for the first time since I had arrived. "You have to step in," she said. "You're her sister." The following morning Carol made it plain. If I did not take the baby, they would contact an adoption agency by Thursday. The child would go to strangers. Nicole would return to school. And none of this would ever be spoken of again. I asked the only question that mattered. What does Nicole want? Does she want to keep the baby? Carol waved her hand as if I had asked about the weather. Nicole is a child. She does not understand what she wants. Raymond nodded. He always nodded. I looked at Nicole, who had come downstairs and was sitting on the living room sofa with her knees pulled to her chest. She was wearing a sweatshirt 3 sizes too large. Her eyeliner was smeared. She looked exactly like what she was. A frightened 17-year-old who had no idea what was happening to her body or her life. Nicole, I said. What do you want? She glanced at Carol, then at me, then at the carpet. I just want it to go away, she whispered. Carol pointed at me. There, you heard her. She has school. She has her entire future ahead of her. She has school. I need you to hold on to that sentence because I will hear it again. 19 years from now, on the worst afternoon of my life, those 4 words will return to me in an auditorium packed with 200 people, and they will carry an entirely different meaning. I drove home that night with the green blanket on my passenger seat. I had not said yes yet, but I had not said no. And in my family, silence was always the same as agreement. 2 weeks later, I called my mother and said I would do it. I withdrew from my graduate program the following morning. Caleb was born on August 3rd at 2:44 in the afternoon. 7 pounds 1 ounce. A thick crown of dark hair and a cry that could shatter windows. I was in the delivery room. Nicole was there, obviously, because she was the one in labor. Carol stood near the door with her arms crossed, watching the clock. Raymond waited in the corridor, probably staring at another patch of floor. The delivery took 9 hours. Nicole was brave. I will say that much. She did not complain. She gripped the bed rail and breathed the way the nurses instructed and pushed when they told her to push. She was 17 years old, and her body was doing something extraordinary. I watched her face through every contraction and thought, she is so young. When Caleb arrived, the nurse cleaned him and swaddled him and held him out. Who would like to hold him first? 3 people in the room. Nicole turned her face toward the wall. Carol did not move. The nurse looked at me. I took him. 7 pounds 1 ounce. His eyes were sealed shut. His tiny fist curled around my index finger and the crying stopped immediately, just like that, as if he had been searching for the right pair of arms. The nurse asked who was taking him home. Silence. The longest silence of my life. I am, I said. 3 days later, I carried Caleb into my 1-bedroom apartment on Maple Ridge Avenue. I had a second-hand crib borrowed from a coworker, a bag of diapers from the discount store, and the green blanket from my mother's closet. I wrapped him in it that first night. The same blanket that had wrapped me 23 years before. It barely covered him, but it was soft and it was warm and it was ours. The first year nearly destroyed me. Caleb had colic. He screamed for 4 hours every night between 7 and 11. I walked laps around the apartment with him pressed against my chest, humming half-remembered lullabies, watching the clock and begging for quiet. I was working as a teaching assistant at Clover Ridge Elementary, 7:30 to 3, then home to a screaming infant. I learned to function on 4 hours of sleep. I learned to eat standing at the sink. I learned to shower in under 3 minutes because 3 minutes was exactly how long Caleb tolerated the bouncy seat. I called my mother once at midnight after Caleb had been screaming for 2.5 straight hours. I was standing in the kitchen in sweatpants and a formula-stained shirt, crying myself. Mom, I need help, I said. Just one night, please. Carol's voice was even. You made this choice, Sandra. You're an adult. Work it out. She ended the call. Nicole, meanwhile, left for college in Portland that September. Accepted to a small private university. Tuition covered by a combination of scholarships and our parents' savings. The same savings they told me were unavailable when I asked about Caleb's pediatric bills. In November, a family court in Harrison County granted me legal guardianship of Caleb. The paperwork was straightforward. Nicole signed the voluntary relinquishment forms by email from Portland during orientation week. I filed the papers in a small fireproof lockbox I kept beneath my bed, next to the green blanket, next to Caleb's hospital bracelet, next to a photograph of him sleeping on my chest at 3 days old, mouth open, fist curled, finally at peace. He was mine. Legally, completely, entirely mine. Let me give you the next 5 years in moments. Caleb at 1 first steps. He moved from the end table to the armchair, 4 feet of open floor, arms spread wide, grinning as if he had crossed a continent. I recorded it on a camera phone that barely held a minute of footage. I still have that video. Caleb at 2 first word. Mama. Not mommy, not mom, just mama, short and certain, like he had solved the most important question and needed no further syllables. Caleb at 3. I began teaching part-time at Clover Ridge Elementary, mornings only, while a neighbor named Beverly watched Caleb for $45 a week. Beverly had 5 grandchildren and the patience of a mountain range. Caleb adored her. Caleb at 4. He could read actual sentences. He read the back of the cereal box at breakfast and asked what niacinamide meant. I had to check my phone. Caleb at 5. First day of kindergarten. I stood outside the school entrance for 12 minutes after he walked in just in case. He did not glance back once. He marched through the doors with his dinosaur backpack and disappeared into the building. I was so proud and so undone simultaneously that I sat in my car and wept in the parking lot. Nobody from my family visited during those 5 years. Not once. No holiday gifts, no birthday acknowledgement. Carol called occasionally to ask how things were going, never to offer any practical help. Raymond sent a check for $60 on Caleb's 2nd birthday. No note attached. Just the check. One Christmas morning when Caleb was 3, just the 2 of us, I wrapped his gifts in grocery bags printed with store logos because I could not afford proper paper. He did not notice. He was 3. He thought the bags were part of the adventure. When Caleb was 6, Nicole called. It was a Wednesday evening. I was making pasta. Caleb was at the kitchen table drawing a rocket ship being swallowed by a volcano. The phone rang and the screen showed a Portland area code and I almost let it ring. Sandra, it's Nicole. Her voice had changed. Deeper, more polished, as though she had been professionally trained in sounding composed. She did not ask about Caleb. Not how he was adjusting to 1st grade, not what he liked to eat, not whether the colic had finally resolved. She did not ask any of those things. She asked about a bicycle, a 10-speed she had left in our parents' garage years ago. She wanted to know if it was still there. She needed to sell it. I'm graduating next spring, she said. And I need money for my first apartment. I told her the bike was probably still there. She said she would call Carol to arrange pickup. Then she said, "Thanks. Bye." And disconnected. 38 seconds. I timed it afterward because I could not believe that was the entire conversation. That evening Carol called. "Your sister is graduating next spring, top of her program, communications and business. Do not complicate things for her." "I'm not complicating anything for anyone," I said. "I'm draining pasta." Nicole graduated at the top of her class from her university the following June. Carol made the drive to Portland for the ceremony. Raymond went as well. They had the graduation photo professionally framed and mounted in the living room, matted and everything, 16 by 20 inches. Caleb's first day of school photo was on my refrigerator door, held in place by a magnetic clip shaped like a pineapple. It was nowhere in their house. When Caleb was 8, 2 things happened that altered the direction of my life. The first, Clover Ridge Middle School offered me a full-time position as a special education specialist with a path to department head if I completed my master's degree. The salary was $46,000 a year with full benefits. For a single mother who had been surviving on teaching assistant wages and carefully monitored grocery budgets, that number felt like rescue. The second, Caleb asked me a question while I was drying dishes. "Aunt Sandra, how come I don't have a mom and dad like my friends?" My hands went still. The water was still running. A bowl knocked softly against the bottom of the sink. He was at the kitchen table behind me, homework open, pencil in hand, looking at me with those dark, thoughtful eyes that were already too perceptive for an 8-year-old. I shut off the water, folded the dish towel, sat across from him. "Caleb, I love you more than anything on this planet. Your birth mom loves you in her own way too. But I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who is always going to be here." He studied my face. 8 years old, already reading people like fine print. "I know," he said. "I just wanted to call you Mom instead of Aunt Sandra. Is that okay?" I had not cried in years. Not when Carol refused to help. Not when Nicole called about a bicycle instead of her son. Not when the holidays passed without a card from anyone. But when an 8-year-old boy asked for permission to call me Mom, everything broke open. He got up from his chair, walked around the table, and wrapped his arms around me. Small arms, firm grip. He smelled like pencil shavings and apple juice. "It's okay, Mom," he said. First time. That night after Caleb went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I thought about calling Carol and saying, "Your grandson just called me Mom, and it was the most wonderful and heartbreaking moment of my life, and I need you to tell me I am doing all right." I did not call because I already knew what she would say. She would tell me not to confuse Caleb. She would tell me Nicole was his real mother. She would tell me I was overstepping. Instead, I opened the fireproof lockbox under my bed and took out the legal guardianship papers, reading them in the light of my bedside lamp. My name on every line. Sandra Lynn Elliott, legal guardian. Nicole Marie Elliott, signature of biological mother, relinquishing all custodial rights. Notarized, stamped, registered with Harrison County. Beneath the papers was the green blanket. I had kept it folded in the box since Caleb outgrew it at 4. He used to carry it everywhere, to the grocery store, to the park, to the bathtub. It was fraying at every corner and had lost much of its original stitching. It smelled like baby wash in years. I was still holding it when I heard a soft knock. Caleb stood in the doorway in his planet pajamas. "Mom, I can't sleep." "Me neither," I said. He climbed into my bed, noticed the blanket in my hands, reached for it. "That's my baby blanket," he said. He had not seen it in 2 years. "It was mine first," I said, "before it was yours." He took it from me, examined the frayed corners, then folded it with more care than any 8-year-old should possess, and placed it back in the lockbox. "We should keep it safe," he said. "It's important." It was more important than he knew. I told Caleb the full truth when he was 13. We were sitting on the back porch on a Sunday afternoon. He had been asking questions for months, not direct ones but circling ones. Why did Grandma Carol always introduce him as Nicole's son at family gatherings? Why was there no birth record of him in the family photo albums? Why had he never met Connor? So I told him everything. I told him about the phone call at 2 in the morning, about Carol's ultimatum, about the green blanket and the 35-minute drive through darkness. I told him Nicole was 17 and frightened and not ready. I told him about the legal papers, about the fact that his biological mother had not called, written, or visited in 13 years. I did not editorialize. I did not tell him Nicole was a bad person. I did not tell him Carol was wrong. I just told him what happened in order, the way it happened. Caleb listened without interrupting. When I finished, he stood up, went inside, and closed his bedroom door. He did not come out for 2 days. On the 3rd morning, he appeared at the breakfast table already dressed for school. I had made scrambled eggs. He sat down, picked up his fork, ate 3 bites. Then he said, "I'm not angry at her." "At Nicole?" I asked. "At any of them. I'm just sad for her. She missed everything." He went to school. I sat at the table for another 20 minutes holding a spatula, barely breathing properly. Caleb did not stop calling me Mom. He did not ask to meet Nicole. He did not ask to contact Carol or Raymond. He simply continued being 13. Awkward, brilliant, growing 3 inches that summer. And he continued being mine. While I was raising Caleb, Nicole was collecting achievements. An MBA from Vanderbilt, marketing director at a boutique consultancy in Denver by 29. A corner office, a company car, the kind of resume that photographs beautifully on professional networks. She also accumulated marriages. The first lasted 2 years. His name was Preston. I never met him. The second lasted 16 months. His name was Julian. I never met him either. Each time Nicole divorced, Carol called me, not to ask how Caleb was doing, not to tell me about the science project he had just won a regional award for, but to warn me not to add to Nicole's stress. "Your sister is going through something difficult," Carol said after divorce number 2. "She does not need judgment from anyone." "I have not spoken to Nicole in 4 years," I said. "Good. Keep it that way. Let her heal." My sister married twice, divorced twice, and neither time sent Caleb a birthday card. August 3rd came and went, year after year, and the mailbox sat empty. No card, no call, no message. She had my address. She simply never used it. Meanwhile, I completed my master's degree. 4 years of evening classes while working full-time and raising Caleb. I graduated when Caleb was 8. Nobody from my family attended the ceremony. My colleague and closest friend, Diane Patterson, sat in the 4th row and cheered loud enough for 15 people. I became the special education department head at Clover Ridge Middle School the following year. Nobody called to congratulate me. That was fine. I had stopped waiting for that particular call around year 5. The Thanksgiving when Caleb was 15 was the first time I brought him to my parents' house in years. I still cannot fully explain why I agreed to go. Maybe I wanted to believe things had shifted. Maybe I wanted Caleb to have the large family holiday experience at least once. Maybe I was exhausted from pretending the Elliott family did not exist. We drove the 35 minutes to Clover Ridge. Caleb wore a collared shirt he had selected himself. He was nervous. I could tell because he kept adjusting his cuffs in the visor mirror. The house was full. Carol had invited cousins and 2 neighbors from the street. The table was set for 12. Turkey, mashed potatoes, sweet potato casserole, the kind of Thanksgiving that belongs in a magazine. Carol met us at the door. She hugged Caleb, brief and staged. Then she walked him into the dining room and introduced him to a cousin he had never laid eyes on. This is Nicole's son, Caleb. Not Sandra's son. Not our grandson, whom Sandra has been raising single-handedly for 15 years. Not even just Caleb. Just Nicole's son. His hand found mine under the dinner table. He squeezed once. 15 years old. He understood the dynamic better than any adult in that room. Raymond carved the turkey. Carol poured wine. Nobody asked Caleb about school, about his grades, about the regional science competition he had placed second in 3 months earlier. Nobody asked me about anything at all. After dessert, Carol cornered me in the kitchen. "It was thoughtful of you to bring him," she said, loading the dishwasher. "Nicole would be glad to know he's healthy." "Then maybe Nicole should ask him herself," I said. Carol gave me the look. The one that said I was being difficult again. We drove home in quiet. Caleb broke it first. "I don't need to go back there, Mom." Caleb's junior year was when I understood he was not simply smart. He was exceptional. Straight A's since his freshman year. Advanced classes stacked 4 deep. Debate team captain. Volunteer tutor at the public library every Saturday. His teachers stopped me in corridors to say words like gifted and outstanding, and have you considered early college placement? I had considered nothing except making sure he ate a real dinner every night and had clean clothes for school each morning. Everything else, the grades, the drive, the quiet discipline, that was entirely Caleb. His school counselor called me in for a meeting that October. "Caleb is on track to be valedictorian," she said. "His personal essay is one of the finest submissions I have reviewed in 15 years. I asked what it was about. She slid a printed copy across her desk. The title was centered at the top. The Woman Who Picked Me. I read it in the school parking lot because I could not read it in front of another person. I sat in my sedan with the engine off and the windows closed and I read every word. He wrote about the night I carried him home from the hospital. About the green blanket. About learning to ride a bicycle in the parking lot of our apartment complex because we had no driveway. About Christmas mornings with grocery bag wrapping. About the night he asked to call me Mom and I wept in my kitchen chair. He wrote, "Biology is circumstance. Love is intention. My mother chose me with intention, every single morning for 19 years, and she never once asked anyone to notice." I sat in that parking lot for 25 minutes before I could drive. The afternoon emptied around me. The sun dropped lower. I held that essay against the steering wheel and I let myself feel all 19 years at once. 2 months before graduation, Caleb showed me the group message. He came home from school on a Thursday afternoon and placed his phone face up on the kitchen counter. "Mom, you need to look at this." It was a family group text. Carol, Raymond, Nicole, Aunt Patrice, Uncle Terrence. Someone had added Caleb to the thread by accident. Probably Carol, who could barely navigate her phone on a calm day. The messages stretched back nearly 2 years. I scrolled through them at the kitchen table while Caleb stood by the window with his arms folded, watching me. Carol, 15 months ago. When Nicole is ready, she'll want Caleb back. Sandra is just holding on to him for now. Nicole, same thread for days later, give me another year or 2. I'm getting stable. Raymond, A thumbs up emoji. Aunt Patrice, poor Nicole. She has been through so much. Uncle Terrence. Sandra should feel lucky she got to have a kid at all. I read every message twice. My hands were steady because they needed to be. The kitchen was quiet except for the refrigerator humming. 2 years. For 2 years, my family had been discussing the return of my son, as though he were a piece of furniture being stored temporarily, until Nicole found a place to put him. I set the phone down and looked at Caleb. Why didn't you show me this sooner? Because I didn't want you to lose them, he said. Even though they don't deserve you. 17 years old. Standing in my kitchen. Protecting me from my own relatives. I did not call Carol. I did not call Nicole. I did not scream or sob or throw anything. I went to the bedroom, opened the fireproof lockbox, and checked the guardianship papers. Every page. Every signature. Every notarized stamp. Then I closed the box and went back to making dinner. If you have ever been the one everyone leans on but nobody acknowledges, if you have been the steady one while someone else collected the recognition, you know precisely what this weight feels like. Hit the subscribe button and stay with me, because what Caleb did at that graduation ceremony is something I still cannot fully believe he had the courage to do. That evening after dinner, Caleb and I sat on the back steps. Why didn't you tell me the moment you saw those messages? I asked again. He was quiet for a while. Crickets and distant traffic filled the pause. Because you would have confronted Grandma, he said. And she would have shut you out completely. And even though she doesn't treat you properly, I know you still care about her. I didn't want to be the reason you lost your mom. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say Carol had surrendered the right to that title years ago. But the truth was more layered than that. It always is when family is involved. Caleb, you and I are a family. We have been since the night I brought you home. Whatever they believe, whatever they are planning, it does not change what is legally and actually real. You are my son. He nodded. I know. I've always known. I did not confront anyone. I did not forward the screenshots to anyone or post them publicly or contact a solicitor. What I did was quiet. I opened the lockbox beneath my bed. I verified every document. Guardianship papers. Valid. Voluntary relinquishment. Signed and notarized. School enrollment records. My name on every emergency contact line for 19 years. Medical records. My signature on every consent form since his first immunization. I also found the green blanket, folded in the corner of the box, faded, unraveling at the edges, smelling of something I could no longer quite name. I held it a moment. Then I put it back and closed the lid. If they wanted a confrontation, the paperwork was ready. But I was not going to initiate one. 6 weeks before graduation, Carol called with news. She did not ask about Caleb's valedictorian announcement. She did not ask about the ceremony. She called to talk about Nicole. Your sister has met someone, Carol said, the way people announce unexpected windfalls. His name is Elliot Crawford. He works in property development. Very established, very family-minded. He wants a real family, Sandra. I leaned against the kitchen counter and listened. Nicole told him about Caleb, about how the family circumstances forced her to make a painful choice. What choice was that? I asked. You know what I mean. The choice to let you help. That was how my mother characterized 19 years of solo parenthood. Letting me help. Elliot is very moved, Carol continued. He thinks Nicole was remarkably brave. He wants to meet Caleb. This could be Nicole's moment, Sandra. Her chance to finally have what she deserves. Her chance. Not Caleb's chance to know his biological mother. Not a chance for the family to do something genuine. Nicole's chance. That was the phrase my mother used. The graduation ceremony of the child I had raised for 19 years, and my mother saw it as an opportunity for Nicole. Elliot doesn't know the full story, does he? I said. He knows what he needs to know. He doesn't know she signed away her legal rights by email during university orientation week. Silence. Do not ruin this for her. I hung up, went outside, sat on the back steps for 30 minutes watching the street lamps switch on one by one. Caleb came out carrying 2 glasses of water, sat next to me. Grandma called. Yes. About Nicole. She's not your aunt anymore. I know. It's just simpler. 3 weeks later, Caleb came into the kitchen holding his phone. She messaged me. I was marking papers at the table, red pen in hand. He turned the screen toward me. A direct message on a social platform from an account with a professional headshot and nearly 5,000 followers. Hey gorgeous. I know this is unexpected, but I'm your bio mom. I have thought about you every single day. I would love to finally meet you. I'll be in town soon. 3 heart symbols. A waving hand. I read it twice. Set down the red pen. Looked at Caleb. He was watching me the way he always watched me when something significant was unfolding. Carefully. Quietly. Measuring my reaction before forming his own. What do you want to do? I asked. I don't know. What should I do? That's your decision, Caleb. Not mine. He sat down, thought for 2 full minutes. Then he typed a reply. Short, measured, cool. Hi, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me. No, Mom. No heart symbols. No, I would love to meet you. Just a surface acknowledgement that a message had been received. Nicole replied within a minute. Can't wait to see you at graduation. I'm bringing someone very special I want you to meet. Caleb read it. Then he locked his phone and placed it face down on the table. I thought about Nicole at 17 signing paperwork by email from a dormitory, and Nicole at 36 typing I have thought about you every single day with 3 heart symbols. Same person. Same avoidance. Different medium. She has school. I have thought about you every single day. 2 sentences 19 years apart. The first one was at least honest. 6 weeks before graduation, the school made it official. Caleb Elliott valedictorian graduating class. I received the call from the principal's office on a Monday morning between first and second period. I was in the middle of an accommodation review for a student with processing difficulties. I excused myself, stepped into the corridor, and listened to Principal Hensley tell me that my son held the highest cumulative average in a graduating class of 287 students. He'll deliver the valedictorian address at the ceremony, Principal Hensley said. 5 to 7 minutes. His topic is entirely his own. I thanked her, ended the call, leaned against the hallway wall for a moment. A freshman walked by and asked if I was all right. I told her I was fine. I was considerably better than fine. That evening I told Caleb. He smiled. That quiet, contained smile that belonged entirely to him, and had been borrowed from no one in the Elliott family. I already started writing, he said. Can I read it? Not yet. You'll hear it at the ceremony. For the next 6 weeks, I heard him practicing behind his closed bedroom door. Reading aloud, pausing, rereading. Sometimes 5 or 10 minutes of silence, and I knew he was revising something. I bought a new dress for the first time in 4 years. Diane helped me choose it. Emerald green, clean lines, comfortable enough for plastic gymnasium seating. Diane told me I looked like I was attending a formal state event. I told her I was going to something more important. Caleb ironed his own shirt. He had been doing that since he was 14. I taught him. He was already better at it than I was. 2 weeks, then 1 week, then 4 days. The ceremony was approaching. And so was Nicole. The call came on a Friday evening, 10 days before graduation. Carol's number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Nicole will be at the ceremony, Carol said. No greeting, no preamble. She's bringing Elliott. They're flying in from Denver. That's fine. Do not make this uncomfortable, Sandra. I have never made anything uncomfortable in my life. Good. Because this is a significant day for Nicole. I held the phone away from my ear and stared at it. A significant day for Nicole. Not for Caleb, the one graduating. Not for me, the one who had sat beside him through 13 years of homework. For Nicole, who was flying in with a new partner to perform the role of mother for an audience. She's bringing a cake, Carol added. Something special to mark the occasion. That's lovely, I said, because there was nothing else to say. I hung up and sat on the back steps. It was May. The air smelled like rain and freshly mowed grass. I could hear the neighbors' children playing across the fence. After 10 minutes, Caleb came outside with 2 glasses of lemonade. He sat beside me. We drank in silence for a while. She's coming, I said. I assumed she would, he said. With Elliott. I figured. Are you all right with that? He set his glass on the step, looked at me with those steady dark eyes. Mom, I have been all right for a very long time. I was all right when I was 8 and asked to call you Mom. I was all right when I was 13 and you told me the truth. I was all right when I read the group chat. And I'm all right now. He stood, pressed his hand briefly to my shoulder. She can bring whoever she wants. She can bring a cake and a banner and a full choir. It won't change a single thing. He went inside. I stayed on the steps until the sky went dark. Graduation morning. I woke at 5:15. Could not return to sleep. Made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, listening to the house breathe. Caleb's cap and gown were hanging over the back of a dining chair. Navy blue with a silver tassel. I had collected them from the school office 4 days earlier and pressed them carefully with the iron on low setting, a damp cloth between the plate and the fabric, the way my mother taught me to iron when I was 9. Caleb came downstairs at 6:30, showered and dressed in a white button-down and charcoal trousers. How are you feeling? I asked. Hungry. I made eggs and toast and poured orange juice. We ate in comfortable quiet. The morning light came through the kitchen window and hit the glass pitcher at just the right angle, scattering small prisms across the table. Can I read the speech now? I asked one final time. You'll hear it, he said. Front row. After breakfast, he went upstairs to finish preparing. I washed the dishes, dried them, put them away. Then I went to get dressed. When I came back downstairs, Caleb was in the hallway straightening his cap in the mirror. I noticed something in his hand. Small. Green. Folded precisely. The blanket. The green baby blanket from 19 years ago. Frayed at every edge, missing stitching, worn through in places. He was folding it carefully and tucking it into the inside breast pocket of his graduation gown. He saw me watching. Held my gaze in the mirror. For good luck, he said. Then he smiled. I did not ask anything further. Picked up my keys. Diane was meeting us at the school. The gymnasium was 20 minutes away. It might as well have been a courtroom. The gymnasium at Clover Ridge High School holds approximately 400 people. That morning, every seat was occupied. Rows of folding chairs across the gymnasium floor, a raised platform at the front with a podium, a microphone stand, and a banner reading graduating class. The school orchestra was warming up in the side corner, 2 violins, a cello, a flute, a French horn, and a girl with a tuba who looked as though she would have preferred to be anywhere else. Diane and I found seats in the front section, left side, close enough to see the podium clearly. Then the rear doors opened. Nicole walked in as though she were entering an awards gala. Cobalt blue wrap dress, chestnut hair curled and falling past her collarbone, heels that clicked sharply on the hardwood, smile bright enough to be seen from the stage. Elliot Crawford was beside her, tailored charcoal suit, platinum cufflinks, silver at his temples, carrying himself the way men who have accumulated significant wealth carry themselves, chin level, shoulders back, surveying the room like a man who is assessing its potential value. Behind them, Carol and Raymond. Carol in a floral blouse and the pearl earrings she reserved for special occasions. Raymond in a jacket and trousers that did not quite match. And balanced in Carol's hands, resting on a white paper tray, a bakery cake. White fondant. Purple lettering. The kind ordered from a supermarket with 48 hours notice. Congratulations from your real mom. 200 people in that gymnasium, families settling into their seats, graduates lining up in the corridor outside. And my mother was walking down the center aisle carrying a cake that declared my son belonged to someone else. I did not move. I did not speak. Diane reached over and took my hand. Before the ceremony began, Nicole made her entrance. She walked directly to the staging area where the graduates were lining up. The volunteer at the door did not stop her because she smiled warmly and said, "I'm Caleb Elliott's mother." And technically, biologically, that was not a lie. I watched from my seat as she located Caleb in the line. She embraced him, a full theatrical performance, both arms around him, head tilted just so. Caleb stood rigid. His arms stayed at his sides. Elliot observed from a polite distance. Carol smiled from 3 rows behind me, cake balanced on her knees. Then Nicole turned. She walked toward me, heels clicking across the hardwood. She stopped at the end of my row and leaned in close enough for the people behind us to hear clearly. "Sandra, I just want to say thank you so much for looking after my son all these years. You have been an incredible stand-in. She paused, placed her hand on my shoulder. But I'm here now. I'll take things from here. Stand-in. 19 years. 4,000 school lunches. 300 parent conferences. 11,000 bedtime stories. 16 years of homework assistance. Holiday mornings. 19 birthday cakes baked from scratch because bakery cakes cost $45 and that was 10 days of groceries. Stand-in. I did not respond. Not because I had nothing to say. I had 19 years of things to say. I did not respond because I saw Caleb watching us from the staging area. He was standing very still. His jaw was set. His eyes were locked onto mine. And in those eyes I read a message as clearly as if he had spoken it aloud. Wait for me. So I waited. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock sharp. Principal Hensley welcomed the families. The orchestra played something classical that no one seemed to recognize. The superintendent delivered a speech about futures and community, and the importance of perseverance, which lasted 11 minutes and contained at least 5 separate metaphors about journeys. Then the graduates began crossing the stage. One by one, name-called, diploma received, handshake, photograph. 261 graduates in alphabetical order. Nicole had positioned herself 2 rows ahead of me. Her phone was out recording. Each time someone crossed the stage who was not Caleb, she lowered it and leaned toward Elliot to whisper something. Elliot nodded. He looked relaxed. He looked like a man who believed every version of events he had been given. Carol sat at the end of her row with the cake on her lap, guarding it with the gravity of someone protecting classified material. Raymond sat beside her, hands on his thighs, staring forward. I sat with my hands folded. Diane was next to me, her attention fully on the stage. She was the only other person in that gymnasium who knew the complete picture. The group messages, the email relinquishment during orientation week, all 19 years of it. Elliot, Caleb. I heard his name and everything else ceased to exist. The gymnasium, the crowd, the cake, Nicole's cobalt dress, Elliot Crawford's platinum cufflinks. All of it fell away. Caleb walked across the stage. Tall, composed, cap perfectly level. He shook the superintendent's hand, accepted his diploma, and looked directly down at me in the front section. He gave one slow, deliberate nod. Then he walked to the podium because the next item on the program was the valedictorian address, and every person in that gymnasium was about to learn who Sandra Elliott really was. Caleb adjusted the microphone, cleared his throat, unfolded a piece of paper. "Good morning," he said. His voice was clear and projected with the confidence I had coached into him when he was 12, delivering his first book report to a classroom of restless peers. "Graduates, families, faculty, thank you all for being here." He began with the expected material. Freshman year confusion. The cafeteria's infamous mystery pasta. That substitute teacher who showed the same documentary 4 weeks in a row. The gymnasium laughed. Nicole laughed the loudest, her hand resting on Elliot's arm. He talked about what Clover Ridge had taught him. About the teacher who stayed until 5 every Tuesday. About the security guard who knew every student's preferred lunch order. About the school librarian who quietly kept a drawer of snacks for students who came to school without having eaten breakfast. He was composed, warm, natural. The room was completely with him. Then he paused. He looked down at the paper in his hands, studied it for 4 seconds, 6. Then he folded it carefully and deliberately, the precise way he used to fold the green blanket when he was 8 years old. He placed it on the podium. And he began speaking from memory, without notes. "I have been preparing this speech for 6 weeks, he said. I wrote 8 drafts. But I realized this morning that the most important thing I need to say was never on any of those pages." The gymnasium went quiet. The particular silence that falls when 200 people simultaneously understand that something unscripted is happening. Nicole was still smiling. She leaned slightly forward. Her phone was recording. She believed he was about to speak about her. I could see it in the way she straightened, in the way she reached for Elliot's hand. She was preparing for her moment. She had no idea what was coming. "The person I most want to acknowledge today," Caleb said, "is not a teacher, not a coach, not a teammate. She is a woman who was 23 years old when someone handed her a newborn and said, 'This is your responsibility now.'" The gymnasium was silent. She had never changed a diaper. She had never prepared a bottle. She had just been accepted into a graduate program with a full scholarship, and she withdrew from it the following morning without hesitation. She moved into a one-bedroom apartment and learned everything she needed to know. 4 hours of sleep a night for the first 12 months. Teaching assistant wages. Discount store supplies. She wrapped my Christmas gifts in grocery bags because she could not afford wrapping paper. Somewhere toward the back of the gymnasium, someone audibly exhaled. A mother probably. Someone who recognized what bone-deep exhaustion sounds like when it is described plainly. She went back to school when I was 5. Evening classes 4 years. She graduated with a master's degree in special education, and not a single member of her family was in the audience. One friend sat in the 4th row and cheered loudly enough to cover 10 people. Diane's grip on my hand became so strong I could not feel my fingers. She sat beside me through homework every evening for 13 years. She taught me to cook, to do laundry, to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye. She taught me to iron a shirt, to change a tire, to write a thank you note by hand. She came to every parent conference, every performance, every award ceremony. She did not miss a single one. Nicole was no longer smiling. Her phone was still recording, but her arm had dropped to her lap. She was watching Caleb with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Confusion, then recognition, then something that looked very much like fear. Caleb looked directly at me. Front section left side. "She is not the woman who gave birth to me," he said. "But she is the woman who chose me. Every single day. For 19 years. Without complaint. Without ever asking for acknowledgement." His voice did not falter. His hands did not shake. He stood at that podium with a composure built from 19 years of watching the most composed person he had ever known. "Her name is Sandra Elliott. She is my mother." The gymnasium erupted. 200 people clapping, a significant portion of them standing. Several were visibly crying. Diane was weeping openly. The orchestra teacher in the side corner pressed her program sheet against her eyes. Principal Hensley, standing at the base of the stage steps, placed her hand over her heart. I could not move. I sat in that folding chair with tears running unchecked down my face, my hands still folded in my lap where they had been for the past 40 minutes. Except now they were trembling. Nicole sat 2 rows ahead of me. She had stopped clapping. Her phone was in her lap, still recording the ceiling. Elliot Crawford was looking at her, then at me, then at Caleb on the stage, then back at Nicole. The expression on his face was shifting. Carol sat at the end of her row. The cake was still on her lap. "Congratulations from your real mom." The purple lettering facing outward, visible to everyone around her. Except now those words meant something entirely different. Because 200 people had just heard Caleb Elliott name his real mother. And it was not the woman on the cake. I looked at my son on that stage. He looked back at me and mouthed 2 words that no one else could see. "Thank you." If you are still here, you already understand that this is not simply a graduation story. It is about who earns the title of mother. If you have ever held someone together while no one was watching, this one belongs to you. Like, subscribe, and stay with me. The ceremony ended. Families moved out onto the grounds. Graduates embraced classmates. Cameras clicked everywhere. The afternoon sun was warm and the grass smelled fresh. I was standing near the oak tree at the edge of the car park when Nicole found me. She came quickly, heels sinking into the turf, mascara already beginning to run at the corners. Elliot trailed a few steps behind her, hands in his jacket pockets, expression pressed into something careful and unreadable. "What was that?" Nicole's voice was sharp, loud enough that the cluster of parents nearby turned to look. "What did you tell him to say?" "I did not tell him anything. You put him up to it. You turned my own son against me." Caleb appeared behind her, still in his cap and gown, diploma in hand. "Nobody put me up to anything," he said. Quiet. Level. The voice of someone who had rehearsed this moment in his mind for a considerable time. "I wrote that speech entirely myself." Nicole spun toward him. "Sweetheart, I am your mother. I carried you. I gave birth to you. And then you signed a piece of paper and emailed it from a dormitory during orientation week," Caleb said. Nicole's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "Grandma told me once that you had to leave because you had school," Caleb continued. "And you did go to school. For 19 years. You went to school and to a career and to 2 marriages and to Denver. And that's your life, and I'm not here to judge it. But you don't get to arrive at my graduation with a cake that says real mom and pretend those 19 years simply didn't happen. He looked at Carol standing 8 feet away, cake still in her hands. And Grandma, you said this was Nicole's moment. But this is my graduation. Not her audition. Elliot Crawford stepped forward. He had been silent through the entire exchange, observing with the careful attention of someone who evaluates information for a living and knows when the figures do not match the projection. Vanessa, he said. The name was wrong, and he corrected it immediately. Nicole. His voice was quiet and precise. You told me the family situation was complicated. You told me you were compelled to give him up. That was the word you chose. Compelled. Elliot, I was 17. Did you sign voluntarily? The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. Parent lowered his camera. 2 graduates nearby turned to watch. Nicole looked toward Carol for rescue. Carol stepped forward, reaching for Elliot's arm. You don't understand how our family works. Elliot moved his arm away. He looked at me directly. Properly for the first time. You raised him from birth? Yes, I said. Alone? Yes. He turned back to Nicole. His jaw was set. The warmth in his eyes had been replaced by something cold and precise. He did not say another word to her. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his cufflinks, and walked across the lawn toward the car park. I heard his car start, a quiet, expensive sound, and watched it exit the lot, past the school sign and disappear down the road. Nicole stood on the grass in her cobalt dress with the afternoon light in her hair, watching the only man who had ever made her genuinely consider being a mother drive away, because he had just learned that she never truly was one. The cake sat on the grass where Carol had set it down. No one had touched it. No one ever would. In the silence that followed, something moved through Carol's face. She was looking at Caleb. Not at Nicole. Not at me. At Caleb standing there in his cap and gown, diploma in hand, silver tassel at his shoulder. Her grandson. The infant she had handed to me 19 years ago with a green blanket and an ultimatum. Her eyes were wet. Her lower lip held for one brief, unguarded moment. 3 seconds, perhaps 4. And I saw something cross my mother's face that I had never witnessed there before. Genuine, unfiltered regret. She opened her mouth and I thought, this is it. This is the moment she says she was wrong. This is where 19 years of silence finally breaks. Sandra, she said. I waited. If you hadn't poisoned him against his own mother, none of this would have happened. And just like that, the moment collapsed. The wet eyes steadied. The trembling lip set itself firm again. Whatever had surfaced retreated back behind the wall of certainty she had been living inside of for decades. Raymond stood behind her, as quiet as he had been every significant moment of his life. He had not spoken once since arriving. Caleb looked at Carol. His expression was patient, not contemptuous, not wounded. Patient. The patience of someone who has accepted that certain people cannot hear you regardless of how clearly you speak. Grandma, he said, no one poisoned me. I am 19 years old. I have been paying attention for all 19 of those years. He paused. Do you know how many of my memories include you? He waited. She said nothing. 7 holiday dinners. 2 Christmases. 1 birthday card in my entire life. That's everything. Another pause. Do you know how many of my memories include Mom? He gestured toward me. All of them. Every single one. Because she was there. She was always there. Carol had no answer. There is no answer for that. Caleb turned to Nicole. She was 3 feet away. Mascara streaked, arms wrapped around herself. I'm not trying to cause you pain, he said. I need you to know that. I'm not angry, and I'm not punishing you. But I need you to understand something. He took 1 step toward her. If you want to be present in my life going forward, that possibility exists. I would welcome that genuinely. But you have to start from today. Not from a bakery cake. Not from a social media message that says my son, my pride, when you don't know my closest friend's name, or what I'm studying next year, or what I cannot eat. Nicole blinked. What can't you eat? Tree nuts, Caleb said. Since I was 4. Mom discovered it when I broke out in hives at a birthday party. She drove me to the emergency room doing 60 in a 35 zone. Sat in the waiting room for 4 hours holding a juice box. He reached into the breast pocket of his graduation gown and drew out something small, green, folded with care. The blanket. The small green baby blanket from 19 years ago. The one that had wrapped me as a newborn. The one that had covered him his first night home. The one that had lived inside a fireproof lockbox beneath my bed for the past 14 years. He unfolded it slowly, held it up for a moment. Then he walked to me, took my hand and placed it carefully in my palm. "This is yours, Mom," he said. "It was always yours." I held that blanket, thin as tissue paper, soft as old memory, frayed at every edge. It smelled like cedar and baby wash and 19 years of being someone's entire world. I could not speak. There was nothing left to say. My son had said all of it. Diane put her arm around my shoulders. The parents nearby stood in silence. Even the tuba player had stopped packing away her instrument to watch. The next few minutes arrived in fragments. Nicole standing alone on the grass, arms folded, looking at the ground, the wind moving softly through her hair. No one approaching her. Carol guiding Raymond toward the car park without a backward glance. The cake sitting untouched beside the oak tree, its purple letters catching the afternoon light. "Congratulations from your real mom." Facing outward, visible to anyone who walked past. Nobody picked it up. Nobody ever would.